Yeah, hey everyone. This is Kelvin. Welcome to episode 44 of Res Metal Podcast. On this episode, I talk with Bradley Glendale of Necron. Necron is a one-man black metal project out of Vancouver Island, British Columbia, Canada. And Bradley is of the Kwakwala or Kwakwala tribe. And on this episode, we talk about kind of like his background, the music scene in his area, also just kind of like, how he developed Necron. And it's really interesting about how he, really talks about the production and the distribution, of his one-man project. And we also just kind of talk about some of the issues that he notices that his people face. But yeah, I was really thankful to talk with Bradley. Shout out to Metal Cave Zine for recommending Bradley to reach out to me, and we were able to set up this interview. So I hope everyone enjoys this episode. I'm gonna play a quick clip of Necron. This is the track "Black Fires of the Grave Ones," and I believe it's on the Red demo. So check it out, and then stay tuned after the clip and check out the interview. All right, yeah. Check it out. Hey everyone, this is Kelvin talking with Brad from Necron, one man black metal project out of the Vancouver Island. Hey Brad, do you mind giving yourself a quick introduction to listeners?
Yo, I'm Bradley Glendale. My Indian name is Casalas. My English name is Bradley. Either one works, and I've been working on Necron for a few years now.
Yeah, thanks again for letting me talk with you. And are you calling in from the Vancouver Island area?
Yeah, actually, I'm down on the south tip of the island in Victoria. My wife goes to school full-time here, so there's a place here that we stay on the weekends. My weekend, which is Monday, Tuesday.
Okay. Yeah, and like I said, I'm in the Fort Defiance area here in northern Arizona. But yeah, I mean, just kind of going back with Necron, or even before that, like, can you just tell us a little bit about your background and kind of like your tribal affiliation and community?
Yeah, for sure. I'm a member of the Untitled Nation. It's a band of, Kwakwala or the Kwakwala speaking people it's the north tip of Vancouver Island and a big chunk of the mainland across from that. My family is from Glendale Cove and Night Inlet, hence my last name, Glendale. And my father, Bill Glendale, is actually our current chief. And, yeah, so my family's been from there for as long as we can go back. We're pretty sure our legends go back somewhere in the 15 to 30,000 year range. And yeah, I grew up on the island here, middle school, high school. My old man was a logger, so, we moved all over to every corner of BC before then. But yeah, came up in the Comox Valley, which when I was a teenager had a fucking awesome punk and metal scene, and just started going to shows pretty young, maybe like 14, 15, started going to shows pretty heavily. And yeah, with our culture, I just always thought these two things need to collide at some point. I'm also the youngest of a large sibling group. I'm the youngest of 6. My dad's the oldest of 10. So I've always just looking around thought that how are way more of our people not into extreme metal,
Yeah. How was your exposure to like heavy music, or how did you get
Uh,
introduced to it?
well, being on the youngest end of my sibling spectrum, I got one sister and the rest are older brothers. So, around third or fourth grade, kids start talking about music at school. And, I'm part of that generation where everybody around my age, their gateway bands are shit like Korn and Disturbed and stuff. But I remember even at that age, going home and talking to my brothers, and they'd be like, what the fuck is this shit? And it was just like, no, we're going to listen to Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and Sabbath tonight, So it was definitely like a trickle-down influence from my brothers. And I found that each of us took what the previous sibling did and went a little further. It's like old man starts at psychedelic rock, ends at Zeppelin. First brother starts at Zeppelin, ends at Maiden. And then when it gets to me, it's like I'm going into school with Maiden, and by the time I get to middle school, it's almost all guttural vocals, and my brothers hate all of it,
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's like a generational, like, or you pick up, where the last like major generation, as far as the music goes. So that's pretty cool. I kind of got into it with like kind of like my older cousins.
Right?
Yeah, me and my older brother were like a year apart, but we pretty much kind of get into stuff at the same time. And I remember one distinct summer, my mom dropped me and my brother off with like my aunt and uncle on the reservation, and my cousins were just like listening to like 6 Feet Under and Danzig and Typo Negative, and like we had no, yeah, we didn't have any like choice in the music selection. We just kind of went with it, and I just remember.
But they're already like knee deep in like guttural vocals and punk rock and stuff.
Yeah. So that was kind of like where I kind of came in. But I remember I wasn't really ready for like, things like death metal at that point. I kind of had to kind of pull it back a little and just kind of, I was in the generation that got into like new metal, but.
Right.
Yeah, it took a while for me to really like appreciate like the really heavy stuff.
Yeah, I could say something similar. I think it's at first when I started really trying to dig into it and learn more about music all the time in like middle school. I think a huge part of it was trying to argue with people and prove to them how technically amazing it was all the time. So I would always try to find shit with clean vocals and try to point out stuff. But then I found the more I dug into it, the less I cared about what the fuck they thought about it. The more, 9th, 10th grade rolls around, and it's like now I'm getting into the guttural stuff. It's like, and almost the opposite feeling where it's like I like that nobody likes this shit,
Yeah. Like other like the in your community, were there like people that were into like more mainstream stuff? Because like over here, I think the biggest thing that everyone's into is country. Like, but was there something similar to like that in your community?
I would say the closest would be like the pop punk that evolved into like the second and third wave emo stuff. It was like everybody. You'd go to a punk or metal show, usually both, because the town's not big enough. So you have to combine the punk scene with the metal scene. And you go to a show that has both at it, and it would be like pretty heavy stuff, like a thrash band and a crust punk band and then a death metal band. But half the kids in the audience are in, American Idiot and like My Chemical Romance t-shirts and shit. So it's kind of like that sort of, the MTV like hard rock was like the main thing in town.
Yeah, that's cool. At least it's got some. Everyone's got some kind of common thing with like rock music. I feel like over here it's completely like it's either like country, hip hop, or like heavy music.
Yeah, the country is pretty rare in the Comox Valley. It exists, but when people say they like it, they're totally looking over their shoulder before they say it.
Yeah. I think around here, everyone, like their parents, like, like everyone grew up listening to like, old country music or the soundtrack to the Urban Cowboy movie. And it's kind of just like it's kind of like just implied. And then everyone, eventually finds their own interests.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I was in high school just at that perfect time where it's like, everybody had Kazaa and LimeWire and was kind of enthusiastic about breaking off of like the shit on the mainstream radio, you know.
Yeah. And then how did you get involved with like playing music? Like with Necron, you handle. Sounds like I understand you handle all the instrumentation, but kind of like how did you first get introduced to playing music?
I started playing guitar, like just piddling around, like not really doing anything with it in the 7th and 8th grade. And then like around 9th, 10th grade is when I met a few other guys that were like pretty serious into it. And then I didn't realize that was like a option. Like, you could spend your time doing this all day, every day. And then once I started hanging out with them, I was like, oh shit, I can, they showed me how to look for music online and read it and start playing, ripping off intros and riffs that I liked to songs. And I thought that I was taking it pretty seriously. In hindsight, I probably wasn't, but I thought I was taking it pretty seriously like 10th to 12th grade. And then the other instruments, they didn't come until the last like 2-3 years. I've always wanted to play the drums, and every time I see a kid, I try to fiddle with it for as long as I can, but I've never had one. And then just in the last couple of years, I finally got my hands on one. And it's the instrument that I wish I started earliest for sure. It's like the most fucking fun, and it's the most relaxing. And for me, multitasking is really hard. So I can't even think of anything else for my day when I'm doing it. So it's like really, cleansing that way. And then bass, honestly, I was most of like the anarchist black metal I was listening to at the time. A lot of times they didn't even have a bass player, so I just thought I wouldn't even have one until about just over a year ago when I finally found a guitar tone that I liked. I was like, okay, it lacks bass. I gotta figure out how to play bass now.
That's awesome. And were you in any other bands prior to forming your current project, Necron?
No, well, yeah, me and a couple of high school friends dicked around with like, 2 jams, and then every other hangout just ended up being us drinking beers and watching Pulp Fiction again, Mm-hmm. So like that didn't go anywhere. That wasn't very serious at all.
Yeah. How did you, or kind of like what was like the thing that inspired you to start playing black metal with Necron?
Well, when I, around like middle school and stuff, when I started discovering what black metal was and all the Norwegian black metal, like lyrical themes, I pretty much the entire time I could imagine this exact song almost being just transported to the Indigenous American experience of Christianity, almost mirroring the Viking experience of Christianity in a lot of ways. And I thought I wanted to have like a party thrash band or something. And I always thought no matter what I sing about or no matter what the lyrical theme is, would have something to do with like, family and upbringing and like just the shit from my environment that I see. But then I found, I don't know how to say their name at all. I'm going to fucking butcher it. Giba or something like that from Prince George, which is a First Nations black metal band from BC here. Do you know how to pronounce it?
Giba, no.
Yeah, I don't know, and I've never heard anybody say it.
I can't. Yeah, yeah, same here. I found out about them too. Like, I think years ago.
Yeah, and once I saw that shit, and I used to live in the town that they're from, Prince George, up there. So once I found that, I was like, it's like you only know what's possible from what somebody's doing in front of you. So it's like, holy shit! It turns out like a generation ago in metal, there was already a BC band, a 3-piece black metal act that was singing about Indigenous issues and their folklore, partially in their language, partially with their instruments, and just not giving a fuck and self-producing it, and with a dope logo that's like the Chaos Star with a cool native wolf in it. And once I saw that, it really clicked.
Yeah, they're amazing. I was able to get one of their CDs. I remember like they posted some stuff on like Bandcamp, and even that like artwork and the imagery too is just it's phenomenal. It's amazing.
Totally. Yeah, totally. So once I saw that, I was like, holy shit! How come then like the idea from 20 years ago about the black metal thing came back, and I was like, it's so obvious now,
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool that you mentioned that. Like, yeah, the the people that formed black metal had so much like aggression and so much like resentment towards Christianity, and that for sure reflects like a lot of the indigenous and Native American attitudes toward organized religion. So that's yeah, I could see that intermingling with like tribal like culture and imagery really does work well with black metal music.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
And then what were like, I know you mentioned Giba, but were there any other bands around your area, or just like bands in general that really kind of like inspired you to play the black metal
Yeah,
style?
yeah, for sure. I'll answer your question in order. I'll go like local and then a little bigger. Locally in town here, I mean in Courtney where I grew up Island, there was a lot of like good punk bands and like heavy metal bands around town. I went to a school with a couple guys in a heavy metal band called Golgotha, which was just like a couple kids in a thrash metal band and some 30-year-old guy singing. And then, but that band moved to Victoria, and the remnants of that band actually formed the power metal group Unleash the Archers. So there was that kind of like there was like some real cool like virtuoso like technical guitar players at my school that were like always something to chase after. But then like down in Victoria here, there's the Black and Crust band Iskra that was just huge when I was in high school to all of our fucking gnarly corner of kids in the corner of the cafeteria. And they're formed out of the remnants of an even older punk metal band, Black Kronstadt, which it's all anarcho punk. It's pretty heavy stuff. But then when they evolved into Iskra, it's like the riff is changing constantly. It's really intense, and it's really awesome to see live. And the cool thing is they're real purists. So it's like no matter how big they got, they would still come play a $5 show in somebody's kitchen in like buttfuck towns on the island, And even a decade and a half later when I saw them at Edmonton, they were still playing $5 shows. So on the island here, there's a lot of really good stuff. And then recently with like in the lower mainland scene here, I really look up to there's a black and thrash band from Vancouver called Wyrmwich. It's all like cool medieval magic sort of themes, but it's a real cool marriage of like I kind of compare them to Skeleton Witch. It's like a merging of black and thrash.
Yeah, they're awesome. Yeah, I love them.
And then a little bigger. Not that I'm trying to like emulate these sounds or anything, but a little bigger than that. I really look up to the band Absu. 3-piece Texas black metal band where the drummer's the singer.
Yeah.
And then in Canada here we've got great one-man black metal bands like Spectral Wound putting out stuff. And then out east, even like the Quebec and Toronto like death metal scene is really good too. So there's really good Canadian acts like I think it's Outre Tomb or it's like French for something tomb. But really good sludgy like Entombed Worship death metal, a lot of that kind of stuff going around. And yeah, I mean the list goes on and on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I really really love that Spectral Wound album that came out last year, Diabolical Thirst. It's pretty sick.
Yeah, so fucking good.
Yeah,
all the top like lists of the year that I saw had that and that Pale Swordsman album like almost always in first place. But I thought that Spectral Wound album was fucking fantastic.
Oh hell yeah. Yeah, I really just for me, I really just dig any like black metal, or it could be death metal, or any kind of like heavy aggressive music with like Indigenous or Native American like influences.
Totally, and I like a lot of the bigger black metal acts too. I like Dark Funeral and shit like that too.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, I think Dissection is probably like one of my like all-time favorite albums. The like Storm of Light Spain. I just love that album, everything about it, and the artwork, and I know,
Oh
like, there
yeah,
was like
there's
some,
not one skippable song on there.
yeah,
Every song is.
yeah. There's a lot of like, kind of like, I guess, kind of like sketchy history with the lead singer. But I mean, I guess I wasn't around. I didn't discover Dissection until like 2005. So I kind of was like
Yeah, totally. And from
disconnected
what I've
from all
read
that.
about
Yeah.
that, yeah, from what I've read about all that, I mean, I'm pretty ignorant to the situation, but from what I understand, his sketchiness almost all seems to be involved with what's their worst album anyway. You know, like all of his sketchy whatevers is all funneled into that final album, which to me didn't stand up to the first few.
Oh man, Storm of the Light Spain, just yeah, it's just amazing. And then
Yeah,
yeah, just kind of like with Necron, looking at like your like the visual aspect of
yeah.
Necron, like do you take a lot of influence kind of like from your kind of indigenous background?
Yeah, totally. On two big fronts, really. Firstly, like the theological and folklore and religious aspects totally play into the lyrical themes really, really well. You know, like even if it were a thrash band or like a whatever kind of rock band, you could easily still have a song about, you know, Zunaqua, who's a big furry shape shifting woman that steals bad kids, smokes them like fish and eats them, you know? So the imagery alone lends itself to what's happening to the music really well. And then like the other half of it too is the history, you know, not just in black metal, but all over heavy metal. You see people singing about their local history, whether it's in a folky sort of poetic way, or whether it's in like a direct history lesson, like, hey, here's what happened on this day sort of way. And I think that stuff plays in really well. My father's a residential school survivor, and you know, there up until recently there was a residential school right in Alert Bay, which is a town that like a lot of my family lived in. So I mean, the violent, brutal history with the government is another key part that's really easy to draw from. You know.
Yeah, I know. Around here, I think one of the biggest issues that we face is just like the like murdered and missing Indigenous women. Like yeah, that still happens, and yeah, it's really sad. I don't know if is something that takes place up in your area.
Yeah, yes and no. Yes, certainly. We actually just had a missing guy that got found recently, but I think because the island is secluded to an island, that sort of activity is a little harder to get away with. Certainly, there's people that go missing hitchhiking and shit like that for sure. I would say like the thing that plays in the themes of my music more so, and the stuff that I see around more so, is like like booze, alcohol.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of families having a really hard time from what's often called the ripple effect. You know, like our parents and grandparents were in the full tsunami tidal wave of it, but to us and to our grandchildren and shit, it's still going to be a ripple. They're still going to feel some wave and some impact from what's gone on. You know.
Yeah.
And I think the two things that we're saying, you know, the MMIW stuff, it's all related. It's all related to the same sort of catastrophic genocide, you know.
Yeah. And then I told you I work in like the healthcare field. I
Right.
do talk to a lot of people with problems with addiction, and yeah, a lot of it kind of stems from like upbringing. Like a lot of people bounce around in the foster care system as little kids, and then there could be some
Yeah.
trauma like going on, and then their mind keeps going back to that time and place when they were traumatized, and then it really
Totally.
kind of hinders them from like getting a regular job and like just functioning in society, and then yeah, using like substances like alcohol and drugs as like their
Totally.
self-medication.
They get frozen in that moment of trauma, or at least part of them does.
Mm-hmm.
And just to relate that to myself, I was gonna quickly say some shit about some family members, but it's like I might as well just talk about myself instead. For me, when I was a kid, when I was 4, on a Easter Sunday when we were home, my brother went into his room and shot himself. He committed suicide. And there's totally like social aspects and all kinds of parts of myself that were frozen right in that moment, right up until pretty much when I was 18. I dropped out of high school. I joined the forces and I was in the Navy. And wasn't until I got that, like, what I always refer to as, like, my douchebag frat guy fresh out of basic training confidence. That was, like, the first thing that ever undid my social weirdness from my brother committing suicide, you know? And then the military just brought on its own shit that I'm just starting to fucking figure out, you know? But it is that thing, you know, where your brain, part of your development is frozen in this moment you can't get past.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really hard, you know. I know, like, it's I just hope that, you know, the people that go through that can, like, you know, just find the good support and, you know, try to, you know, function on their own without the use of substances. But, you know, it's easier said than done. I mean, it's just, yeah, the alcoholism is just, you know, it's hard to overcome around here.
Oh yeah, totally. I got another brother that, like, you know, like not even 15 years after that, killed himself drinking and driving. And it's just, you know, it's that same shit cycle. And, you know, not them in particular, but you see a lot of people where that happens. And then the kids they leave behind, they grow up to be just like their parents.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah. But no, I mean, definitely there's just a lot of, like, stuff around here that I think, yeah, does fuel people to, you know, it's good to see them, like, put their, like, anger and frustration into, like, art, like music or
totally. And in that regard, and I really consider myself one of the lucky ones. You know, it's like I found a focus for it, and I found it pretty early. You know, like, extreme music got into my life early enough that I've always been able to relate something that's going on with me to a song or to, like, an album or whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you know, it's worked out for me like that. And I see people around me in my life that don't necessarily have that outreach, and you can see them grapple with it. They're trying to find somewhere to put these feelings, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I for myself, you know, I'm not a musician, or I don't really, you know, I can't play music, but, like, one of the things that keeps me focused is just doing this. Like, you know, I, you know, find bands, and then, you know, I'll be able to, like, talk to, you know, like what we're doing, and then it really just keeps me focused. You know, I edit this myself, and then, you know, I, like, put together the little, like, you know, Photoshop artwork. It just keeps my mind, like, occupied and busy. Like, I think, like,
totally.
yeah.
Then you get to watch it grow and develop.
Yeah, I like, yeah, especially, like, just the response, and then on top of that, it's like, it's kind of like almost like an addiction, and then I want to, like, do it again, and then, you know, just try to, like, keep reaching out. It's kind of like more for me, and also, like, I like, you know, doing this for people to listen, or, you know, for bands and, like, musicians to, like, you know, spread their music. So it just keeps me busy out here. But going back to your music with Necron, kind of like, I know you've put out a couple demos and a couple singles. Like, we talked about earlier, is this, you pretty much do everything from thinking of this, like, the music, and then all the way to, like, the production, and all the way to, like, distribution, like,
Yeah, totally. So it's like, I make everything myself in the house. I built, like, a kind of what I call a studio, really just like a soundproof spare room that doesn't have a window. And yeah, I kind of figure it all out from there. In my full-time work life, I'm a tattooer, so I already understood, like, you know, editing programs, Photoshop, stuff like that. So packaging the stuff came pretty easy. And not always, but lately in my life, I've been one to quickly jot down things that I think of. Sometimes it's like, you know, a silly little poetic limerick about something I'm observing, or sometimes it's like just a thought about what I'm seeing happening. I compile all that shit, and then when I end up with 2 or 3 pages of stuff that sounds kind of similar, I try to whittle it down into a song. And and yeah, so it's like I make all the music, I make the lyrics. The packaging, it can be a bit of a struggle when it comes time to print and stuff like that. I live and work in a pretty small town, Parksville, so it's like there's not a very hot, you know, print shop in town or anything like that. And it's actually funny. I keep telling people the most expensive part of producing the first demo was not getting all the music editing software. It was not renting the instruments or even ordering custom color, custom length cassette tapes. It was printer ink. And it's like I spent like fucking $500 on printer ink making this thing. But yeah, it all comes together pretty well. We're pretty lucky here in Canada. I'm not sure if any of your other bands have mentioned this or anything, but duplication.com or duplication.ca is like looks to me to be one of the last companies in the world making cassette tapes in custom whatevers. And it's a Canadian-based company, so we can get the stuff pretty quick.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And yeah, when I was looking online, it was like my options were Canada, Sweden, or Japan.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And then with distributing it, down here in Victoria, there's a fucking awesome place that's wicked to underground music, Cavity Curiosity, and I think the promotion company is Cavity Productions. But Andy, who runs that, he is a huge supporter of local art here. And ever since I was first trying to get out of the forces and selling T-shirts and like graffiti ink and stuff that I was making, he was happy to carry it in the store. And he edits a record store and a bookstore, and then also he puts on shows. He puts on the Vancouver Island Heavy Metal Festival, and even he'll get acts like Skeleton Witch and stuff like that to come to town. And so he's always been a big supporter. He sells my stuff. But aside from stores like that on the island, I just use social media to reach out to distros and tape traders and underground magazines and shit like that.
Yeah, for sure. And then
did I kind of answer your question?
Yeah, Metal Cave Zine, it was kind of how I found out about your stuff.
Thanks, man. Did I kind of answer your question? I feel like I trailed off.
No, it's cool. It's like, you start from where you get the idea for a riff, and then you kind of whittle it down and then record it, and then like the production and then distributing. Yeah, that's
yeah. And the riffs, it's like the riffs. When I was younger, being in the Navy really fucking, I feel like it totally took the guitar away from me because you don't have enough personal space to bring something like that aboard. So I totally dropped guitar for the most part for like between 3 and 5 years. And when I picked it back up, it was weird how I couldn't remember the building blocks to the complicated shit I could play, but I could still play it. And it's like for the life of me, I could not get the scale out that makes up that riff, but I could still play that riff. So I found when I got back to it, I couldn't hear something by ear and mimic it, but I could hear it by ear and make like what I would call like a shitty sketch of it. You know what I mean? Like if that song is a finished painting, I can do a half-assed sketch of that painting. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I get like 5 or 6 of those together. But I really like crunchy fucking headbangers that are like 2 to 4 minutes long. So I only need 3 riffs. 1 for the intro, 1 for the chorus, and 1 for the verse. So I'll try to get 5 or 6 similar riffs sounding together, play them for a couple days or a couple weeks until I can transition between them relatively smoothly, and then similarly to the lyrics, whittle it down like to the time length and repetitiveness that I like.
Yeah, I dig it, and it's super raw. I'm just my only thing is like I found out about it too late enough to get a physical like tape or CD. Looks like they've been sold out for a while.
Yeah, and I've really been flabbergasted by the online response to that. It's I certainly wasn't expecting that first one to like fly off the shelf as quickly as it did. But with the last year and a half of news of them, they say discovering, some people say rediscovering, some people say whatever, finding all these bodies and corpses and hidden graveyards and everything all over North America. Locally here on the island, it's mostly really forward-thinking hippies and stuff like that. So they're really empathetic to it, and they're so receptive to Indigenous art at the moment. Now, I don't know how much optimism I have that this will echo into the future, but for now, at least, there's a real flare-up in like interest in locally made stuff. And even in Parksville, where I work, my middle-aged and elderly clients, they find out that I'm Indigenous, and then they're desperately curious about it. and that's like really refreshing lately.
Yeah. That's cool, man. And then I understand there's another demo in the works.
Yeah, Blue Demo is honestly the only thing I'm waiting for right now is tapes, which are all fucked up and shipping right now. But once I get those, I'll start printing them, and they should be ready within a few weeks here.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's gonna be 3 songs. The last song on it is going to be a sequel to the last song on the first demo, so it's going to be Resistor 2, and it'll be my longest song to date.
Nice. Yeah, I can't wait to hear that. But yeah, no, that's really cool. I'm glad you took the time to talk with me. We kind of talked about the stuff that you've been listening to, and like, were there any like other bands you think people should check out, or any artists or anything that listeners should check out?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably just emphasize some of the ones I already said, like Iskra, ISKRA, locally on the island here. Awesome Black and Crust anarcho stuff, I sing the praises of Skeleton Witch up and down because I think they're the perfect marriage of black metal and thrash metal. Oh man, it's going to take me a second to think here. Oh, fucking one black and roll record that I think is crazy underrated that everybody should check out is Reclaim the Flame by Tyrants. From what I understand, and I could be getting this totally wrong, it's the guy from Winterland, which is a great one-man black metal project. But it's just him and 2 other guys getting together to make a raw, simple, crunchy fucking headbanger. It's that midnight style Celtic Frost worship, but way crunchier and way heavier.
Yeah. Damn, that sounds awesome. Tyrant, you said?
Tyrant, Reclaim the Flame. And then they had an EP before that. I forget what it's called.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. I mean,
what are you listening to lately?
Lately, I mean, I like to follow like record labels, and so
Cool.
one of them is like this one, Transcending Obscurity. I think they're from India, but they sign bands pretty much all over the world. But pretty much everything they put out, I just gravitate towards. But they had a something called Godless Truth that came out, or it's gonna come out. It's more like like death metal, like grindcore. But as
Cool.
far as like black metal stuff, I guess I saw one thing came across. I'm a really big Bandcamp person, and so Black Braid.
Yeah.
I don't know if you came across that Black Braid. It's like a one-man Indigenous.
Bell.
Yeah, it's a one-man Indigenous project. I think they're from the like upstate New York area.
Cool.
They released a single, Barefoot Ghost Dance on Blood-Soaked Soil. It's just a brutal like song title.
Cool, man. I like all those words. I'll be checking that out.
Yeah. It's just it's pretty. It's not as raw, but it's more. Definitely a lot of like atmosphere. And then yeah, I think those are the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, there's probably something I'll probably think of like in a few minutes and be like, shit.
Yeah, sorry. Text it to me. I'll check it out.
Yeah, but yeah, Blackberry, that one. I think a lot of people are. I've seen a lot of people kind of respond well on like the Bandcamp.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then yeah, any other like shout outs or any encouraging words for listeners.
Well, I would say for listeners, if you live in a place where there isn't much of a metal scene, you can make one. Like the town I live in, it's fucking real tiny. You know what I mean? It's 5 blocks, but there's metalheads, there's headbangers, and I see them at the bar and I see them at the store, and we talk, and we're looking for shit, we're trading shit, we're making stuff. No matter how small the place is where you live, you don't have to isolate yourself musically.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I would say like that's the biggest thing of the last handful of years of my life, anyway.
Yeah, I'm kind of like we talked about earlier. I mean, I just moved to this area, and I'm just so just a big fan that I really wanted to like kind of get to know the area and talk to people around here, and I found this was a good way to do it. And yeah, because I do miss going to like the shows in the city and like having that social interaction with like people who like the same music. But when I come out here, it's like there's nothing. Like I get off work and then it's just me here, and so yeah, really just
man.
having that social or just having that like connection with another person who likes the same music is kind of like what I've been missing.
Yeah, totally. I hear you. This is the longest I've gone without live music since I was 14. It's definitely the hardest part of it. But I mean, like I'm saying, man, it's out there. You just got to dig around, and especially with the way things are going now, everybody out there, you could start a fan magazine, you could start a distro, you could just start even just collecting more seriously and get engaged,
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I hope everyone, checks out your stuff, Necron, support your stuff. I know a lot of it's online. We can stream it on like Bandcamp and
for sure. It's Necron BC because I'm from BC. Just Necron BC at bandcamp.com, and then at necron.bc on Instagram,
awesome.
Which is where I update people daily or most of the time.
Nice. All right. Yeah. But yeah, thanks again for letting me talk with you. I'm gonna hit the stop right now, but I'll keep you on. That was my talk with Bradley Glendale of Necron. Hope you enjoyed that interview. Be sure to follow Necron on Instagram. Also follow Necron on Bandcamp and stream all his music. Also shout out to Metal Cave Zine for featuring Necron on their Indigenous metal playlist. I'm going to play a track off the Necron's newest single, With a Knife Down My Throat. So yeah, thank you. Check it out.